and 1350 AM. The Ticket.
Welcome our video audience to Idaho Sports Talk. It's our Dollar Loan Center video segment, funding loans for 25 years at don'tbebroke.com. Quick, inexpensive, safe, and regulated, and soon 16 locations co-opening here in Idaho. Prater, Bronco Nation, they might be wondering what offensive coordinator Dirk Koetter thinks about all three quarterbacks, how each one is improving this spring, and what it means for the competition that's really going to kick off here in August. Here's Dirk Koetter earlier today.
Let's start with Madsen. I mean, he's the hardest because he's bored out there right now. He can only do 7-on-7 and individual. So there's a guy who has proved that he can play at this level. He sees our offense struggling at times and knows he could make it better, but he's helpless. Like, we get in those 11-on-11 drills and we got our faces kicked in at times today, and he wants to help. So he's frustrated more than anything. I think he's just licking his chops to get out there in the fall. CJ has definitely got enough talent to be the quarterback here. CJ sometimes makes the hard plays and misses on the easy plays. So just consistency is where he's working hardest, and in the leadership realm. And he's working on both. But again, none of us are where we need to be. And then Malachi, just being able to process it faster. And again, part of that is like he's going from Spanish to French. So he's learning a new language, and that's to be expected.
Do you see in August this being a 1-2-3 battle, a 1-2 battle? How do you kind of envision fall?
The staff and Coach Danielson, they'll be looking at that as, the evaluation process of spring happens more next week. But we'll still have competition at the position because, as we just sit today, none of us are playing good enough. So that means I'm not coaching them good enough. And, we'll get it straightened out in the fall.
Dirk Koetter there. We had a chance to talk to him today, Boise State's offensive coordinator. He's going to talk about the entire offense at 5 o'clock and break down all the different positions and some of his frustrations and some of the success stories that he's seeing this spring. But obviously right here, we're focusing on quarterbacks, and the big focus is on Malachi Nelson and the USC transfer and the 5-star recruit and what he's doing. And Ballgame and I have talked a lot about how he started clicking last week. Well, here it is in Dirk Koetter's words. How has Malachi Nelson developed this spring?
Yeah, he's improved a lot. First off, for being a new guy and playing quarterback and being in a room with other quarterbacks that all knew the system. So, he's coming in where we use the same verbiage that they had before. So it was all new to him, and he was lost swimming in terminology for a while there. You can see his ability as a thrower. It shines through. Him just learning how everything is done at Boise State has been an adjustment, but he's working on it. Made progress, but again, like a lot of guys, just not where we need to be right now.
Last time we talked to you, you talked about you never even seen him throw, and you were going to show up on spring day, camp number 1. What was your initial thought when you saw him throw, and how did you kind of process his throwing?
Yeah, you can see. I mean, he can spin the ball. All right, the kid can spin it, and he can make throws from off-balance platforms. Now, that can be a blessing at times, and it can be a curse at times. Like there was a curse a couple times today. But the guy can throw it, and he can throw it accurately for sure.
Well, there's Dirk Koetter. What are you guys thinking? You're hearing this, 208-424-9300 on the Cloverdale Plumbing text line. Hard to imagine. I mean, this time last year, Malachi Nelson was looking at Caleb Williams every day at USC. That was his plan, Prater. And then we'll hear Caleb Williams next week when he goes to JP's Bears. Now here he is, completely different system, all new terminology, all new teammates. And you know what? A slightly grumpy Dirk Koetter, probably on his case a little bit for continuing to improve each and every day. But that's good to hear. You knew it wasn't going to be Dirk coming up saying, oh my gosh, all three of these guys are the best thing ever.
Dirk doesn't have a lot of patience, and he understands the circumstances. He's going to give it his best shot, but you can still understand that the impatience factor is going to kick in there, and we sense a little bit of that today, Ballgame.
Yeah, Dirk went on to talk more Malachi Nelson. Here's Dirk Koetter talking about Malachi Nelson and his early camp struggles to pick up on some of this terminology.
Like a freshman comes in and it's all new. Usually he doesn't come in with the hype that Malachi came in with, as highly recruited as he was. And so everyone had this expectation that Malachi was going to come in here and set it on fire. And that's tough for any quarterback when they don't know the terminology. I mean, he tells me all the time, okay, at USC, we called this XYZ, and here we call it goobly-gotch or something like that. It's just, and there's a whole bunch of words. I mean, there's a whole lot of goobly-gotch going on out there.
He said that with a straight face. I was going to ask him, how do you spell goobly-gotch? But with his frustrations, I had flashbacks to 97, 98, 98, 99, and 2000 when he was the head coach and grumpy beat writers and grumpy football coaches and all that kind of stuff. So I didn't quite go there.
He was like that a lot back in the day, huh?
No, he was like that every day. And that was Dirk Koetter every single day for 3 consecutive years. And every now and then he'll warm things up with the fuzzies of goobly-gotch, goobly-gotch, goobly-gotch.
That was kind of interesting. Yeah, how do you spell that? That's funny. You were going to quote him, Prater. You were talking.
I mean, if I was the newspaper guy, I need to know how to spell that.
No,
right?
Totally. Yeah.
And the radio guy, I just have to say it, goobly-gotch.
It's funny. I never thought about that.
And I'm sitting there, the editor and me thinking, because there was like 2 or 3 newspaper guys in the room. Not one of them asked Dirk Koetter, how do you spell goobly-gotch? How are you going to put that in the newspaper if you can't spell goobly-gotch?
Yeah. I guess you just got to assume, but you don't want them to do that. You want Koetter's. Maddux Madsen, Dirk Koetter, talking about how to judge Mad Dog this spring. He has limited reps.
Oh, I have very good memories of Maddux, so I don't have too much problem with that. The one thing about that is, this is a simple thing, is we have real game film of him playing. All I got to do is put on that film and watch him play. Like, playing in a real game and executing in a real game is way different than executing in practice.
Do you see all three? I mean, all three with nowadays with NIL and transfer portal and all this. I mean, do you see all three? Mike asked me, do you see in August 1st, like all 3 guys still being here? Or do you at the end of the spring? Yeah. How do you look at who's third?
We don't know that for sure. And like I said, Coach Danielson actually started this week, and it will go into next week, meeting with every player individually. Position coach wise, we'll meet with our guys next week. But that whole portal thing, that throws a wrench into it. I mean, who knows what's going to happen at the end of these 2 weeks.
Ballgame, I showed up at practice today, knowing that the transfer portal opened at midnight last night. And the first thing, because you know how my mind works, it's just dark and desperate sometimes. I walked into practice and I see 111 football players running around doing their thing, actually 115 of them. And I'm thinking to myself, which one of these knuckleheads is going to transfer on Monday morning? Which one's going to be in the transfer portal on Tuesday? Who's transferring on Sunday? Who's going to be first? The social media graphic that somebody's working on right now, so they can put that out there next Wednesday and Thursday. So the transfer portal opened today, guys, and it's open for the next 15 days through May 1st. And we talked about the quarterback thing last week. It's real life. I don't know if the quarterbacks are going to transfer. I guarantee you at least one of those 115 players that we watched today will not be here next week, and maybe more. We'll see how it plays out, but the transfer portal is real, ball game.
I don't know if it's going to hurt them or not. It might be, a couple of players that do leave Prater weren't players that were going to factor in, and they have been told by who they needed to tell them, hey, this might not be the fit if you're trying to play a lot of football and pursue whatever it is on the field. Here, Spencer loves all those dudes, probably wants every one of them in the building, but still isn't ready to play every one of them in those situations. Those guys will have to go. I wonder if there will be a decent sized name in the portal, and maybe that's a CJ Tiller. Who knows though? Once we had CJ on here last week, I don't think he's leaving in the spring. I think he's going to take this into the fall and try to at least get better at football. If he doesn't get the job, then okay, he's a backup next year as a red shirt freshman. He still has 3 years to play after that. I don't know. It feels like Spencer Danielson in the transfer portal just hasn't been effective. I'll tell you what, though, there are a couple positions I've been seeing Prater where I'm like, you know what? They could stand to go into the portal and get some depth at this or that position. But I don't know if they're going to do that either.
Yeah, that's always a tough one because once spring camp and these guys won't be able to show up until June and you're so far behind the 8 ball. And if you're looking for immediate impact and the perfect fit, I mean, they'll look, they'll sniff around. They got guys on staff that are looking for that. There's no doubt about it. And you're right about CJ Tiller. When he sat in here last Wednesday on our show in our studio and looked us in the eye and said, I'm not going anywhere. I believe him. And we followed up the next day and we talked about the transfer portal and the 3 quarterbacks. And I believe all 3 of them when they say they dig being here. We had a chance to talk to Maddux last week as well. Not Malachi. We won't be able to talk to him maybe until January, but we'll see how that plays out. But if I had to guess, I think all 3 quarterbacks are going to stay. If I had to guess one of them, I think CJ Tiller, even though he was very strong about his competition and when he looked us in the eye, very convincing. Of all the 3 of them, I would say CJ Tiller wakes up on Monday morning and realizes the writing on the wall and is gone. I think Maddux Madsen appreciates and loves the brotherhood and could realistically settle on being the number 2 guy. I think CJ is young and hungry and wants to play. And if he sees himself on the 3rd string and sees the writing on the wall, I can see him at least sniffing around. But I think all 3 of them will stay. But somebody's going to go in the transfer portal, and it's probably going to be the 3rd string left guard, you know, whatever. So I don't think there's any transfer portal news that will impact this football team or make a fan stand up and say, crap.
What do you guys think? 208-424-9300 on the Cloverdale Plumbing text line. How do you see the transfer portal playing out at the quarterback position or any else? And is there a position out there you would like to see Boise State go portaling for? We'll read some of those during feedback finale in the portal. Speaking of which, did open today. JP, maybe anything interesting happened across the country. Maybe it relates to the state of Idaho. JP, give us a little portal update as Prater in the Ballgame, KTIK the Ticket.
Idaho Sports Talk with Prater in the Ballgame. So many ways to listen on 90.